Hello everyone, welcome to Yoga for Beginners channel. I'm Svetlana. Today's video, Downward Facing Dog Part 2, is a part of videos where I explain all major yoga postures in details. And the first video I made is for Downward Facing Dog Part 1, where I explained in details how we work with our shoulders and our hands to keep our wrists and shoulders safe, because downward facing dog is inversion and we bear our weight on our hands. Second, I put mountain pose, because engagement of our legs we use for mountain pose is used everywhere in all major postures we do during a yoga class. What we do in mountain pose? Keeping our feet connected to the floor, first we rotate our thighs inward. With that move, we plug in, we insert the top of our thigh, the femoral head, into our hip socket so that all the muscles around your hip joint can be properly and evenly engaged. Second, what we do, we need to realign our knees. How we do it? Keeping our thighs rotated in, we push our shins toward one another to that midline of our body. With this move, we realign our knees with our second toe. So when we rotate thighs in, knees of course move inward, following our femur, our thigh bone, and to keep them aligned in a straight line with our femur, we need to squeeze shins to the midline. Now we are sure that our hip joint and our knees are ready to move and they are safe when we'll be moving and doing any other posture during a yoga class. So let's just come to our hands and knees. Place your hands slightly wider than your shoulders and press all corners of your hands to the floor. Press your fingertips to the floor. Open your chest. Lift space between your shoulder blades up. Tuck your toes under and move your hips up. Now you can just work with your legs. First, rotate your thighs in. With this move, you definitely can see your knees fall into the midline. Now squeeze your shins to the midline to realign your knees with your second toe. Now engage your core. Lift your hip bones up, roll your lower ribs in. And stretch, push your sit bones up to the ceiling. What also we need to mention for downward facing dog is the length of downward facing dog. The length of downward facing dog, in theory, ideally is the length of our plank. Because in sun salutation, we move to downward facing dog from high cobra. How it happens? So when we're in our plank, high plank, then we move to low plank, and then we move to a high cobra, and then only downward facing dog. Again, ideal postures don't work for everybody. For example, I always slightly shorten my dog, approximately a couple of inches when I do downward facing dog. And also there are a lot of questions, should heels be touching the floor? No, they shouldn't. If they touch the floor, that's great. If they don't, they don't. And the most important part is to keep your legs properly aligned, your knees always slightly micro bend, and also, of course, be careful with your wrist when you do downward facing dog.